jungle and made our ways up to a place called Ingenio in Tambolit. About halfway up, we got lost in the dark the next day. So we were praying, me and my dear friend Paco, we were praying, "Oh God, give us some direction. We're lost. We don't, if we're found in here, the terrorists owned the place, the military wouldn't even go in." And we cried out, "Oh God, give us some direction. Help us." We heard a bell. Then we heard somebody talking. It was a strange conversation at first, we thought. Then we realized it was a little boy coming in from the fields with his burro, and he was talking to his burro. And so we got behind him and we followed, and then we stood on the edge of the town, little village, huts, adobe homes. And I said, "Paco," I said, "you know, if the terrorists own this thing, we're dead." "Yeah, but we got to go somewhere." So we got down, walked up to a man who was drunk in the dark, and said, "Hay hermanos por aquí." Are there brothers here? Because everybody knows what that means in the mountains. It means a real Christian. And he said, "La vieja por ahí," the old woman over there. And so I went over there. It was an old Nazarene woman. And I knocked on the door. I said, "I am an evangelical pastor. Please help me." And that old woman reached out with that lantern. She grabbed me. She pulled me inside. She grabbed Paco, took us down. Her house was cut out of a kind of a cliff in the mud, and took us down in the basement where there was some hay and chickens and things, and she sat us there and she lit a lamp, and then a little boy came in and she called to him and said, "Go get the other brothers," and they started bringing chickens and yucca and everything else, risking their life. Why? Because we are one. Stop saying all these silly things that you're saying, that the body of Christ is divided and it's a mess and it's full of sin. I would not talk about the bride of Christ that way if I was you. What you've got is a bunch of goats and tares among the sheep. And because very little biblical, compassionate church discipline is practiced, they live among the sheep, they feed on the sheep, and they destroy the sheep. And those of you who are leaders in the church are going to pay a high penalty when you stand before the one who loves them, because you did not have enough courage to stand up and confront the wicked. As a matter of fact, listen to me. The average scenario in North America with regard to churches, by and large, the churches are democracies, and I don't want to get into the ifs or pros or cons of that. But here's what happens. Because the preaching of the gospel is so low, the church is basically, the majority of it are carnal, lost people. And because it is a democracy, they by and large govern the direction of the church. And because the pastor doesn't want to lose the great number of people, and because he has wrong ideas regarding evangelism and true conversion, he caters to the wicked in his church. And his little group of true sheep that belong to Jesus Christ are sitting there in the midst of all the theater, in the midst of all the worldliness, in the midst of all the multimedia, going, "We just want to worship Jesus, and we just want someone to teach us the Bible, and pastors are going to pay for that." It's true. It's just true. You're saying, "Oh, you're just angry." My dear friend, you know what it costs me to say this? It's true. Trying to keep together a bunch of wicked people while a little flock in the midst of them are starving to death and are made to go in directions they don't want to go with the carnal majority. Listen to me. If my wife was at Walmart late one night and you walked by as a man and you saw that 2 men were abusing her, 3, 4, 5, 10 men were abusing her and hurting her, and you put your head down in the name of self-preservation and you walked by, I want to tell you something, my friend. I will not only look for those 10 men, I will look for you. It is the bride of Christ, and she is precious to him. It's going to cost you to serve Jesus. It could cost you your church, your reputation, and your denomination, absolutely everything. But the bride of Jesus Christ is worth it. And look what it says. I love this. Look, 39, I will give them one heart and one way. And what is that way? It's Christ and it's holiness. Every true believer I've ever met spoke much of Christ and had a longing desire to be more holy than they were. More conformed to Christ. And look, I will give them one heart and one way, that they may fear me always, for their own good and for the good of their children after them. Oh, what a text that is. But let's just go on really quickly. I will make an everlasting covenant with them, that I will not turn away from them to do them good. Now, we just read this, and so many people who are wicked, who are lost, they just go to church on Sunday, they hear this verse, yes, God has made an everlasting covenant with me. He will never turn away from me, never, never. I'm secure because of God's grace. But they fail to read the second part. And look what it says. I will make an everlasting covenant with them, that I will not turn away from them to do them good. And I will put the fear of me in their hearts, so that they will not turn away from me. The evidence that God's made an everlasting covenant with you, sir, is that He's put the fear of God in you so that you will not turn away from Him. And if you turn away from Him and He does not discipline you, and you continue turning away from Him, it is evidence that He has not put His fear in you. You have not been regenerated, and you have no covenant with God at all. Oh. It's true. Seventh indictment, and we'll just rush through this. And I know that this is misunderstood today, and so I'm going to define it. A lack of loving and compassionate church discipline. Most evangelical pastors in America today ought to take Matthew 18 and rip it right out of their Bible. You can't do that, sir. You got to take the whole thing. Many pastors, their theology gets left behind when they come out of their office, out of their study. They're theological in conversation, they're theological in their office, but when they step out, they run the church by carnal means. I am not an elder at my church, and have not been there very long, so I can say this without boasting. It practices church discipline. It's a very large church, about 1,000. And they estimated they've saved 30 marriages in the last several years through loving, compassionate church discipline that does not begin with excommunication. It begins with ye who are spiritual. We say, oh, I'm too loving. We can't practice discipline. We're just too loving. You're more loving than Jesus. He's the one who commanded this. Yeah, it'll cause so much problems. Yeah, you're right. Maybe that's why there's not a whole lot of problems between the church and culture today, because we're not confronting culture. And we don't confront culture just by going out there and picketing Hollywood. We confront culture by obeying God. Noah built the ark and condemned the world. You don't have to have a protest sign. Just walk in obedience and the world will hate you. My dear friend, if your brother sins, go and show him his fault in private. If he listens to you, you have won your brother. Oh, what a wonderful thing. But if he does not listen to you, take one or two more with you, so that by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every fact may be confirmed. It's not that these guys are on your side. They're going to listen and judge. Maybe you're the one that's wrong. Maybe your brother's not in sin. Maybe you're overcritical and legalistic. Who knows? And listen, if he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. My dear friend, I believe that we need to hear this. We can either start obeying God and disciplining ourselves, or we can have God do it for us. And maybe the hour is coming, and now is, when that's going to happen. I'm not talking about critical, legalistic, hateful men. There's enough of those. I'm talking about a man, a group of elders, leaders, who love enough to lay their life on the line, because they know this is not a game. This is not something that we do just for this life, that eternity is at stake, the salvation of souls. Look at all these Christian bookstores. Look at the old books of the old days, of the Wesleys and the Whitfields and on, the Puritans and the Reformation. Most of those books dealt with what is the gospel, how do you preach it, how do you bring someone to Christ, how do you discern true conversion, how do you be a doctor of souls. We have joined Rome in this matter. Rome, the baby is baptized, the baby is Christian, the baby is Rome. Never again deal with conversion. Just create all sorts of worldly means to try to keep them in the church. Evangelicals have done the same. Pray a little prayer with them after 2 or 3 minutes of counseling. After a half